The seat. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for indulging us also. We're just a couple of minutes short. I wanted to make sure that we were able to get enough people in to be a part of this. And again, thank you so much for coming out and taking part in this public meeting, and that's just what this is. I'm Lisa Goodwin. I'm the Deputy City Manager of Operations, and I wanted to, again, just welcome you because what we're looking for today is to get your input on parking meters in Uptown Columbus. And so we're going to share with you, and most importantly, we're going to get information from you and get your outlook on what you think should be in Uptown in terms of what types of meters, in the fact whether there should be meters. And so again, nothing has been determined. This is all a fact-finding mission for us. I do want to start off by just recognizing our mayor who is here. Thank you so much for being here, Mayor Henderson. And then of course we have members of council here. Councilor Thomas, we have our Mayor Pro Tem Allen here. We have Councilor Crabb here. We have Councilor House here. So thank you for being. I saw and Councilor. I thought it was Councilor. No. All right. So he kind of looked like Councilor. Got that face. That's who it was. I know. That's what I thought it was. But again, thank you for being here. I don't think I missed anyone. And let me tell you how we got to where we are. Back in September of 2019, our internal auditor did an audit of Metro Transit System. It was an extensive audit, very thorough as he always does, and so he looked at the entire department, which includes parking management. And as a result of looking at parking management, he came back with some recommendations. He, of course, reported back to council on the entire audit, but more importantly, that piece on parking management was very substantial, and it was a great recommendations, and so much so that council wanted us to take a little further dive into what we could do and what the possibilities were in terms of having parking meters in Uptown. And so we've put together a group of people throughout the community and in the Uptown area to really take a look at what that could look like. And first of all, I do want you to know no decisions have been made, nothing. No decisions will be made until after we've received the input of the community who personally are going to be affected by those things. And so that's where we are, and that's how we got to where we are today. And so what I'd like to share also are those individuals who are on the committee, and if they are here, I'll ask them to stand. Of course, John Redmond, our internal auditor, Rosa Evans, who is the director of Metro Transit System, Command Sergeant Grant with Columbus Police Department. We have Everett Fleming also with Metro Transit. We have Tarana Crawford, who is the division manager for parking management. Randy Longsford, there he is just in time. He's the interim president for Uptown Columbus. Reynolds Bickerstaff, I don't know if I saw Reynolds here, but he is on the committee. And then, of course, Steve Morris with Columbus State University. And this makes up the committee who's looking at all of this. Thank you all so much. You may be seated. And so, first thing that they did was the group came together, and we had a number of different vendors to come in, and they brought their wares, they brought their equipment, different types of equipment, and they just kind of went through it with us so that we could see what some of the most up-to-date technologies that were out there in terms of parking meters, because of course, it's been a long time since we've had parking meters in this community. And so they were able to come in and kind of share with us what they have, and we could ask the questions, see the product, and kind of kick the wheels, if you will. And so we were able to do that, and we'll share with you what some of those things are. Just as a reminder, the Uptown area this is just a map of the Uptown area, which covers the enforcement area, covers Bay Avenue to 3rd Avenue, and then of course 9th Street to 14th Street. Those are the boundaries in which the Parking Management Division enforces. And so those are, of course, 2 hour, 4 hour, 8 hour, 15 minutes time zones. We currently have off-street parking at our parking decks. We have the River Center parking garage, we have Front Avenue, Bay Avenue, and then of course the 9th Street surface lot, which encompasses over 2,000 parking spaces, again, off-street. On-street, with between our Broadway, our avenues, our streets, in total, we have over 1,600 parking spaces, which provides just in that area a little over 3,700 parking spaces between the off-street and the on-street levels. And so, I think, the one thing that we know that we need to look at, not just enforcement of the area, but we need to look at the total package, which is a parking management plan. It's very easy just to go down there and enforce and write tickets, but we have to have something else in place other than just that. We, of course, want to see people use our off-street opportunities in terms of those parking decks. A River Center parking deck is, you can go any time of the day and it's empty. It really is empty, and it's free. We've done a lot of things to encourage people to utilize those parking garages, but those are there. They're there for the use. And I think, in Columbus, we know that, everybody want to park at the front door. Everybody want to get as close as they can, because sometimes when you're going down and you want to have lunch or do business, you'll ride around until, you find that on-street space. Instead of going to a parking garage, which is, that's just the nature of what we do. And so the possibility of having parking meters in here provides that, what you're looking for. We're looking to ensure that you're able to have high turnover on the streets and when you need to. So if we have those parking meters down there, for instance, you just feed it until you're ready to leave, or it may be even with that, there may be a timed situation. But again, those are the kinds of things that we need to hear from you on this evening. In terms of the enforcement, their schedule, right now, parking management is in the Uptown area Monday through Friday, and they enforce from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., not nights, not weekends, and of course, not holidays. And if there is anything going on in terms of during these times when they are not here, CPD handles, and so they're called in to take care of whatever the issues are. Parking management, of course, not just handle the Uptown area, but they also enforce on the interior of Lake Bottom Park. They are also on 9th Street there in front of Metro Transit System. And I think those are pretty much the areas that they manage right now. We do have a number of requests for them to look at to go into other areas, but of course, based on the resources that we have, the staff that is in place, we currently at this point cannot go in, outside of where we currently have authorization to go. So the next few slides are kind of what the technologies look like, and I'm going to ask at this point Everett Fleming or Tarana Crawford to come and share with you just what each of these can do, what those opportunities are, and how they work.
As you all know, there are many types of pay stations. So what we're trying to bring to Uptown Columbus is the pay stations that provide the access to use your debit card, money, and not the coin access. These new technology forms do provide a way for you to just put in the location of the vehicle, of your vehicle, and the number of space that you're in to be able to allocate the time frame that you're going to pay. That you're going to be there in the parking spaces. Now, a pay station does cover 5 to 10 spaces a block, so you won't see a pay station every single space. You'll see it every 5 to 10 parking spaces, so that you can be able to walk in distance to pay for that parking space. Now, these are, you see these in the different areas like Savannah or down in Alabama. These are your everyday parking stations. These are your multi-space parking spaces. These will be in the middle of 2 parking spaces, so you can either park in the first one or the second one, and you can pay for either or. With this method, like I said, you can also use your debit cards and coin access, but we're trying to make sure that it's more modern and everybody has the easy access to be able to pay for these things. You're able to see the time that you allocated and pay for the amount of time that you're needing, so that you won't go over and you have the expectation of when you're supposed to be back to your vehicle enough time before it expires.
Next, you will see the parking apps. So to make it easier for citizens, they have apps that you can download to your phone. So they all Android-based that you can see here. And also, when doing so, you can identify the locations where you want to. If you want to plan ahead to go to an event, you can identify a parking space, a location for the designation of where you're trying to get to. So that can be identified by the price, the location, like in a garage or a parking space. It's identified by a space or number. And so if you extend your time, if you are running out of time, of course, you can extend your time just by using your app on the phone instead of going to a pay station. You can do that right at your desk, your office, or wherever convenience for you, wherever you may have your phone. And so with that, it makes it easier and more conducive for you if you are on the go, like most citizens here in Columbus and abroad. Respectively, for Atlanta, they have a 2-hour. They have a 2-hour time limit that varies from 2 to 4 hours per zone. Macon, as you see, for $1.25 per hour and 3-hour time limits. Savannah, respectively, from $1 to $2 per hour, depending on the zone and the time limit. Then, of course, in Augusta, these rates, they have suggested rates of $1.50 or $50 annual fee for residents. So there's a monthly fee currently for downtown employees right at $25.
So that's kind of what some of the other communities are doing. Augusta, of course, when you say that the rates are being suggested at, because they're just on the cusp of theirs and working it at this point. And so that's kind of what they're looking at. Trina. Okay. Now, some questions for you to consider. First of all, I guess we'd like to know, is there an appetite for parking meters in the Uptown area? Just, the mic is available. We'd like to hear from you. Anyone? So is there an appetite? If there is, should we open it up and meter throughout Uptown? Is there a particular street that you would like to see started? And of course, most of the tickets, just for information, most of the enforcement tickets are written on Broadway and First Avenue. That's the bulk of where tickets are written, the high turnover areas. But of course, should we start on a test area? Should we just do, Broadway first to see what it's like? We can employ more than one type of meter just to be able to get the feel, or we can do it all. Just need to hear from you. Yes.
Lisa, is there like a hybrid meter that could use the coin or cards, and then the cell phone can also?
Yes.
Cell phone app could also be used on those too?
Yes, there are technologies out there where all of that can be used. Yes, there is.
On the same meter?
On the same, yes, that is correct.
I think that would probably be the better choice of
Okay.
meters.
Okay. Yes, sir.
The feedback that I'm receiving is not necessarily that they're opposed to it, but what are the time constraints? I noticed earlier you had 8 to 6 was the parking enforcement hours, I believe. Would the timeline be similar to that? Would the meters shut down at 5 or something? Because you have
No.
a lot of folks that are volunteering to go in to different parts of the Uptown area at night. Particularly thinking about some of the churches down there.
Sure. Of course, the enforcement piece is just 8 to 6. I don't know if you can shut the meters off. John, are you familiar with whether there can be a cutoff on the meters?
stamps there that will indicate
The time.
hours that,
Mhm.
which they'd be enforced, so
Okay.
they would know that after 6 p.m. for
That you don't have to pay at all. That's what you're suggesting, Mayor Pro Tem?
Same way on Saturday or Sunday, depending on what
Sure.
days you enforce.
Okay,
Also, to add to that, within our system, we're able to embed what we want the hours to be. So from my desk, if there's an event or something going on, I'll have the ability to change the hours from right then and there. From any computer system I have is on my phone. If there's something that we need to do or we need to change the time,
Okay.
we can do it right then and there. So it's instant access.
okay, that's all, that's good to know. Mhm.
This is reference to funerals downtown. You know, if you have a downtown, and this probably would affect somebody like Trinity who's on First as opposed to the other ones. But in order to have adequate parking to line cars up, see, the only parking on First in front of Trinity are angled parking, then it's all curb service on the other side. But the question is, I mean, in order for us to be able to have a funeral and deal with that, we need to put out cones the night before.
Okay,
And we have had an instance where we've paid some traffic, some
Parking.
tickets for people who are on the funerals that marked, their tires are marked or whatever it is. And I just think, I know you can't have any answers, but I mean, it needs to be considered how we can handle something like that if you've got meters and they're on a timer or whatever. But the big problem is if it's a 2 o'clock funeral, then they go out, those spaces are blocked with it, till we get there and have the funeral and leave. So it could be from, we go out the night before, it could be not 4 o'clock before we get out.
okay.
So, and of course that goes on, I guess, I didn't know if you were going as far down as in front of the Ralston, on the opposite side in front of First Baptist Church, or St. Luke, so anyway, it probably is something we need to consider, or so we can have an answer, because you can always cover up the parking meter, but that's gonna,
Sure.
there's not, I don't know if there's a good answer for it or not. But,
Well, certainly certainly we can work that. I think right now, if you call and Metro Parking Management, let them know what's going on, they're going to accommodate you.
Yeah, well,
Because, yes,
They have been very accommodating
Yes.
at this point. When we do that, call the night before, and let them know
Right.
what our plans are. So,
so the same thing, even if there were parking meters in that area, we would have that same understanding. We certainly can work that, yes.
And that goes back into what I was saying, if there is, like I said, a funeral or something going on, we can shut those meters down that particular block so that we know that those cars are going to be coming for that funeral, and then when you let us know that you're done, those meters or pay stations will go back into effect. So it'll just be that instant of type of situation. So the night before, like that night of, we can go ahead and set them so they're set to where it's only funeral. It's going to show something on there to let you know that this is just for funeral parking. We can do that. So that's just a way for for you to be alarmed, and as well as the citizens to know that this is for funeral parking or what the case may be.
Okay, thank you, Joanna. Any additional questions? Yes, Councilor House.
For someone that uses a debit card or a credit card, will they have to pay that 2.5% fee that we currently collect if you use a credit card plus the dollar?
Possibly, yes, and yes, that would, yeah. So there would be a fee attached.
There'd be a fee attached to use a credit card?
Yeah, there is now.
There is currently, yes. It's a convenience fee, if you will. So we'll look at that if something is different, but right now, that's how it is, yes. Yes, sir.
Lisa, could we look at, you mentioned earlier limiting like a startup area, a pilot program?
Sure.
Could we, if we're gonna do this, could we look at that? And I would like for us to just think about not locating them around the church.
Okay.
That would just save a lot of frustration. It would, to me, it's difficult to pull up, Judy and I were just talking about, if you pull up to a meter, how do you know whether it's live or not?
Right,
I mean,
right.
you turn them off, but
And I don't know if
How
you,
would the consumer know that?
could we cover them? Because I think some where you have covers on them. You know,
Well, we have
bags.
coverage, but on the actual screen, it will say something.
But I've got to
Yeah.
get my card and go to the card.
That's right. So the best thing would be to cover that meter up, just to cover that meter. Yeah, we can do that. Yes, we can. There are covers that they have for meters.
And like
Yes.
he's been doing, they've been putting cones to let you all know that those blocks are designated for that funeral. That will continue. So we'll still do the same methods as we're going with them as right now with the funeral homes. So we'll still continue that method with them.
We have a jewelry store, Jimmy's Jewelers on Broad, been in business since 1984.
Yes.
We have a lot of elderly couples,
Mhm.
a lot of singles, you know, they don't even have a smartphone. They come in to drop repairs off, they come in for a battery,
Mhm.
and they're even complaining that $8 is too much, or $5 is too much. So that's what we're concerned
Mhm.
about. We have at
Okay.
least 20 people a day.
Okay.
And some of them are only in there just a few minutes. to
When
get
you
the
say
battery.
$5 or $8,
Yeah,
you mean
no,
for?
they don't, that's what it costs to get a link.
Oh, you
They
mean for the battery.
It's
Okay.
mostly elderly, I mean,
Sure.
younger too, but most of them never have any cash, and then the, older ones, they don't have credit cards, or they don't wanna use them. So we're
Mm-hmm.
real concerned about how they're gonna get in. They're already having a hard time because there's no parking.
Mm-hmm,
It's
okay.
gotten worse.
Okay.
But-
So we're talking,
but I mean,
having,
the bad thing is like when someone's gonna come in and a lot of them can't even hardly walk to get in there.
Mhm.
They're having a hard time. And then they've already expressed to us, we can't come back here if y'all start charging for parking. You know, it's not us, but they just said they can't do it. So- And some of
Okay.
them are only in there 10 minutes.
sure, okay.
That's the problem we've
Yeah.
got. But,
Well-
I mean, you know, we understand progress, but we're concerned about it.
Yeah, but of course, they're gonna have different types of, you have coins and bills, debit card, credit card, those types of mediums. So there are a number of different ways, but I hear what you're saying. They just,
It's
they
gonna be hard.
just don't want to even to pay anything. Want to be able to come in,
They
yeah,
don't even
well,
pay the $5 for the link.
so,
I mean, they hardly, a lot of them say,
Yeah.
well, we don't have it,
Uh-huh.
can we come back? So
Yeah,
they have to come
yeah.
back.
Mhm.
And that happens
Okay.
a lot. They have to
Okay.
come back because they don't have $8.
yeah,
So it's gonna be really hard for us.
Mhm.
And we're already struggling. I mean, business downtown is almost dying for retail.
Mhm.
It's more restaurant and bar.
yes, okay.
That's our concern.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. Mhm.
Thanks so much. I'm just wondering, what is the problem that we're trying to solve by considering going to the parking meters and that type of things? What is it that we're trying to accomplish that the current time zones and that type of thing don't do for us?
Well, I think the time zones, even in cases with the parking meters, there could possibly be a time frame for the use of that, putting the money in. Maybe, as you saw, some communities will give you, you put that in and you may only have up to 3 hours for use before you have to move on to something else. Or it may be you can continue to feed it. The issue that we're having, I think, and with the Uptown, the residents and the business owners and the users there, the enforcement piece. There are $40 tickets now, so that if you're there getting your hair done at the beauty shop, it's going to be more than 2 hours. You're going to have to, every 2 hours, move your vehicle, or you will be subject to a $40 ticket. And so that's what we're trying to get away from, some of that, so that we put the control more in your hands than in our hands. And so that means that if you're there, you're parking, you can go out there and you can, if you're going to go to the beauty shop, tattoo parlor, or wherever that's going to be, you can feed it for 4 hours and you don't have to worry about it. So you don't, whether we come through or not, you're safe, you're good.
Can't that be done by just eliminating the tickets?
Well, we couldn't just eliminate tickets. The one thing you have to have is turnover to give others an opportunity. Otherwise, what happens is what has happened, continues to happen today. Employees are the ones who are going to sit there and take up all of those spaces in front of those businesses. And so when you come down to do business, you won't have opportunity to park because the employees are all parking there. And so you have to make sure, that's why we have various types of the time frames, 2 hours versus 4 hour time frames, just to provide that.
Who decided not to ticket people on Saturday?
Who decided not? Well, police can still ticket you. Parking enforcement just does not come down there. We only work Monday through Friday.
Ticket anyone down there parking for longer than 2 hours.
Well,
But parking enforcement does, and on Saturdays, people come down there and they park 12 hours while they go down and bicycle the Riverwalk. And that doesn't make sense to me, it's backwards. They should be paying, you should be getting the money from people that are parking there on Saturdays and Sundays, not the people that are down there trying to get a half-hour lunch when they are working a mile away. During the week, you can go down there, there's parking all the time.
well,
During the week.
yeah.
Unless you're down there for lunch. Now, during lunch hour, it's busy. But if you go down there on a Saturday, there's no parking. And
Well,
that's when they should be enforcing it.
Clearly, we know that there isn't a parking problem. We don't have a parking problem in Uptown. We have plenty of parking. It's just that everyone wants to park at the front door. That's the issue. So if we can get, for instance, even the business owners to encourage their employees to park in the parking garages, you're going to make more opportunity for others to come and park in front of those businesses to do business. But the problem has always been, and of course I think Richard Bishop can attest to this, that it's the employees that are parked there, and the business owners just will not tell their employees, do not park on the street, do not park in front of this business. This is where you need to park. And that's why, again, the parking garages were $2 every time you exit. So you could have stayed in there all day long for $2. But we made it free. There's still no use because everyone want to park in front of the door. So there isn't a parking problem. It's just that people, and so the only way that we can make sure that others have an opportunity to park in those spaces is to provide right tickets for the abusers. That's the only way we can do it.
I think if you're trying to encourage tourism, writing tickets isn't the answer. Because if someone parks down there and they get a $40 ticket, they're not coming back.
Yeah, that's why we're looking at parking meters. If you go in any community, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see parking meters. And that's what people are accustomed to seeing, and they're accustomed to having parking meters no matter where they go in various communities. And so if you go to any of those cities or, cities throughout this nation, you're going to see parking meters. And that's what we're accustomed to having. And that way I can feed it as long as I can, and I can go about enjoying my day and not have to worry.
So, last weekend I was in Savannah, and they don't seem to have that big of an issue with tourism and parking. I got 2 parking tickets sitting there in Savannah. However, they were both tickets that were 0 fee because they have some sort of system where if it's your first couple times getting it, if you are from out of town or something like that. I personally couldn't get the thing to work, and so I just walked off and said I'll pay the ticket. But my question is, so we have 1,600 parking spots downtown on the street, which I'm guessing most of, if not all of them, would be metered. You're looking at well over $1 million in income from those over the year. What would we be looking at using that income from the meters for in the city? Or have y'all kind of thought that out as far as, would that go towards something downtown or some sort of infrastructure or something like that down there?
Well, that would be a decision of our city council in terms of that. Of course, the funds would go back into the parking management fund. And if anything is different than that, then of course that would be the decision of our legislators.
One thing I was going to add is Savannah, they do enforce at nighttime. And from our experience, it is night times during the week, or Friday nights or Saturdays that it does become an issue of parking. You might want to look into, maybe not Sundays because of the churches downtown and so forth, but maybe extending that to later on in the evening when dinner time is coming in. And a lot of us from North Columbus go downtown or uptown to eat and whatnot.
Sure. Well, we would hope that even though we're talking about 1,600 parking spaces, that we're not looking to put 1,600 parking meters in the Uptown area. Of course, as was indicated, the pay stations would cover several, half a block, if you will, and then, of course, you just have to go to that pay station and, based on the number of the parking space that you're in. So certainly we're not looking at that number of parking meters in the Uptown area, but as Mayor Pro Tem has indicated too, let's look at staying away from around the churches. And so that's another number that we wouldn't have in that group, if you will. So I think what we're looking for is some guidance from you in terms of what you would like to see. Again, are we looking at just Broadway or First or both, or do you want to see it on every street or as much as we possibly can? We don't want to, put something out there and then that's just not something that that you were thinking was going to happen. And so that's why we really want to hear from you. Yes, sir.
Ms. Goodwin, you may recall the audit recommendation also did include consideration for Saturdays, because for about 6 months out of the year, we have the market down there on Broadway.
That's right.
That area. And one of the problems we have there is that the vendors park in the spaces really where the customers need to be on that day. It's the same issue we have during the week. The employees and businesses there, taking up the spaces where the customers need to park. Of course, we always have the garages and they're free. But to answer the gentleman that asked about what you do with the money, you have to remember that it costs money, one, to fund the setup of the meters and the apps. It also costs money to properly maintain and clean the garages and provide the safety and security and the lighting that's needed to make it a safe area to walk, whether it be during the day or at night. So there's a lot of things that have to be considered. You have an enforcement staff, and we might have to expand it, particularly if the area, were expanded, or the days of the week were expanded. So I would envision it, and that was my intention, is that those funds would go back into keeping that up, because the street spaces have to be maintained as well. It requires a lot of work of striping and restriping and realigning and sometimes resurfacing streets. So it would be mainly to take care of that. It may provide some money for some streetscaping too.
We have about in terms of their budget, it's about $178,000. That's the budget for our parking management division. And of course, we would certainly have to cover those costs in terms of the revenues that are received. And we know that parking meters, they do bring about a large amount of revenue to a community. And we would expect to see the same thing here. So,
Ms. Goodwin, I'd
Yes.
like for us to take another look at doing anything on Second Avenue. If you go with me down Second Avenue, starting at 9th Street,
okay.
on the parking that is currently on Second Avenue is around the government center. And we've had numerous conversations about what we're gonna do with the government center. But in every one of those conversations, there has been the issue of a garage, so that people who come to the government center would not have to park on the street, could park in a garage. If you go down between 10th and 11th, there's parking on both sides of the street. The activities that are in that block, many of them are St. Luke's, college related organizations, and the food bank and that sort of thing, once you get past the fire station. From 11th to 12th, most of that is church parking. First Presbyterian, St. Luke, and First Baptist, and the post office.
That's right.
Continues to be, and I don't know how you solve this problem at all, but both on Second Avenue and on 12th Street by the post office, supposedly there's 15-minute parking so that you can run in the post office and run out. But that doesn't always happen.
We just recently changed that for law enforcement only in that area in front of the parking.
I understand that, and if you go down there, I bet you that the.
That's
at least
right.
One of the 4 cars that are parked in front of the post office is not law enforcement.
You're right, you're right.
But then you go from 12th to 13th, I'm still on Second Avenue. The parking is on the west side of Second Avenue. There's no parking on the Ralston side of Second Avenue there between 12th and 13th. And then at 13th on, there's no parking on 12th, on Second Avenue. So I would like for us to take another look at, do we need to include Second Avenue? What is the impetus to do that? And I would reinforce 2 things. One is no decisions have been made.
That's correct.
So that when it's said here tonight, we will do this, we may not, because no decision has been made. The second thing that I would emphasize is that one of the reasons that council wanted this meeting was to hear from the businesses in downtown how this will affect your business. And we've heard from the jewelry store, and we've heard from the funeral home. If there are others, businesses in here, I really would like to hear how you think this will affect you. And my closing would be, I know that one of the things that we talk about all the time are employees who work in the Uptown area who park in these places. I don't see how this is gonna change that. If they will park there and go move their car every 2 hours, they'll park there and feed the meter.
Yeah.
Particularly if they can feed the meter without having to leave their place of business to go out there.
That's right.
First of all, I want to say thank you to the city council, to the mayor for all the progress we're seeing in Columbus and all areas. I appreciate that. And on to the parking. I have visited Augusta downtown several times lately, and I have to say Augusta is so much like Columbus. However, Columbus is way far ahead in their downtown area. CSU is one reason, several reasons for that. But they are getting vibrant. They have a river walk. It may be a little higher than ours, but it is just reminds me of Columbus when I go. I just want to make sure that we have made use of every type of available parking spaces. And I know in Augusta, now they don't have the median that we have on Broadway, but they have parking, they have parallel parking across from the slanted horizontal parking. And so I've kind of looked at this and analyzed it, and thinking, well, maybe we can't have parking on the other side. However, there are delivery trucks that are parking a lot, and I'm thinking, well, those are a lot bigger than cars. Now, I know that they need to have parking to deliver to the stores, but is it a possibility that we could have some parking for cars on that other side? Also, there's about 5 or 6 storefront stores for sale down in the area. I know we have a couple of cute little parking areas, probably owned by businesses downtown, that look like maybe they were stores at one time. And, you know, is that a possibility? So I'm not opposed at all to paying for parking. However, there are people that may have a problem and not be able to pay for parking, so I think we need to be mindful for that. Elderly, yes, they're not going to pull out their phones possibly. So I just think we need to look at that also. And just make sure that there's not additional parking somewhere that we can add to it and just to make it a little easier. And yes, parking decks, I mean, if you can park right in front of the candy shop, that's what people want to do. But anyhow, I just wanted to say that, just to make sure we're looking at every avenue.
Okay, thank you for those comments. We did for years have parking on both sides of the street on Broadway, but of course, once we created the streetscapes along there, the roads were narrowed because of walkability. And so that's what we were looking for at that point. And it's been, Pam, do you recall when we did that? Or Richard? When we took away the parking on the opposite side of the road. Yeah, back.
Those spaces now are signed with loading zones.
How long ago has that been? 2001? Okay, yeah. So we handed up until that time. But thank you for those comments, yes.
That's a good one. Is the thought that the city will own, operate, maintain, and enforce the parking meters in the parking zone, or is it the anticipation of using a third-party vendor that would do all of that and then just simply remit a portion of the proceeds from the parking meters to the city?
No, it would remain as it is today. The city would operate all of that and be responsible for the enforcement and the maintenance piece of that. Yes, totally city.
We haven't made that decision.
Anyone else?
Lisa, I think I would like to see, a little bit more research. You're trying to come up with where we start, if we wanted to start with it being broad in the Uptown area, or if we want to start in specific areas. And I think Gary and Judy had really good points. I would like to see maybe a start around the established parking structures, because then at least they have an alternative of another place to park free of charge and with the least amount of walking. So, and then in hopes that those spaces right in front of the businesses would stay open for, people that are less able to walk a great distance. And then people would choose the free parking because it's fairly close. And so maybe we use it as a training a training program, or to train them and incentivize. That's a good way to say it.
Okay.
Because I think that people, once they start using the parking structures, they're going to see that it's not that inconvenient.
Right. Okay.
I'm coming at this from two different perspectives. First off, I'm one of those nasty employees that folks are talking about downtown. I have an office at 1025 First Avenue, right across from McClure Theater there at the Springer. We've been there we're starting our 4th year now. I understand the desire to get employees to use parking garages. I'm one of those that would have a problem and would have to seriously rethink relocating an office. I think several people in here know that I've had problems with bad arthritis and a bad leg, also a lot of heart problems. There is no parking garage anywhere close by that I could walk to and have any reasonable chance of making it more than once, particularly not in the summer when it's 110 degrees in the shade. So I would ask you to, first off, let's keep in mind there are some folks who can't make that walk. And with that being said also, while you're looking at parking, I would like to strongly suggest adding some more handicap parking, particularly on Broadway.
Okay.
As one who finds himself needing it more and more, I would appreciate it. Make my life easier when I try to come downtown to do something.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, thanks
Hey.
for hosting this. It's real unpopular. I like to look at it as we're trying to come up with parking solutions.
Mhm.
And so it's a real challenge. There's other challenges too, oversized vehicles, when they come down, buses, tour buses, or people with trailers that are trying to work or do business downtown. There's no place to direct them where to get there. The parking tickets are relentless, even if they make common sense what you're doing. We're getting ticketed in loading zones when we're actually loading with vehicles that have our placards of our companies on the side of it. So it's kind of challenging. We feel like we're maybe a criminal, or we're crossing some lines and we're just trying to do business. It's pretty difficult sometimes. I think it's been brought up in some of our meetings about having shuttle services that work through the parking garages, that work through downtowns, that might solve some of the growing issues of people trying to get from point A to point B. That might double as some security also, because they're active and current. And if you can imagine working in total systems and be able to just grab a trolley to come into the downtown area to eat, have a restaurant, it solves a lot of those issues around there. We're guilty on our particular block 10. We have about 160 employees just on that one block. So we deal with our employees all the time, almost threatening and firing people. It's something that's so hard to control because you can't identify the car. There's no place for them specifically they can go park that they see. And safety at night, when they leave to go to get in their cars to leave at late o'clock, sometimes 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, so all of that parking conveniently has a lot of perks to it. So, the challenge is how do we solve this? And I really appreciate everybody looking into it, and I have an unpopular view, and that would be put parking meters where they're needed and parking garages to be free. So that would be a solution. And then having some kind of a transit system to help solve the other issues that are around that. So I'm actually for the test.
Okay.
And I'm for the test on the Broadway 1000 block. That's where our businesses are at. I have a lot of people that will come to downtown, circle around 2 or 3 times, and leave to go through a convenient place so they can do a drive-in because they could not find a solution that they could solve in the timeline that they had to have lunch or dinner. And one thing we know for sure, what is actually going on now is actually not working. So us coming up with a solution, I'm all in on trying to figure that out.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for those comments. Anyone else? Right up front here.
I wonder how much of this is just breaking a habit. I think we've tried to cater to everybody and make their parking garage free. Nobody wants to park there, nobody wants to walk. I understand some people can't walk, but parking meters are not new. I mean, this is not a new concept. I don't see why we have to test it forever, because Columbus is slow at getting things put into place. Parking meters are not something that I think should take that long. People from out of town understand how to use a parking meter. I've never seen any other city of this size that doesn't have parking meters. So I think some of it is just breaking the habit and breaking people that thought that you can just park straight in front of a business. That's not normal. This is the only place I've seen where people think that that is a normal occurrence. Most places you are gonna have to walk some distance. And my second question is, the Synovus parking garage used to allow people to park in there, especially on the weekends. Did that stop because now they have an arm there where you can't park there?
During their business hours, it's their employees on.
Yeah, it's not public.
I believe you can at night, I've done it.
No,
I don't know.
I do think fairly recently I heard that they have.
They have. Synovus, that is a private debt, and Synovus has put that as to their employees only. They notified us because our students were parking there. So that has been taken offline.
That used to help, but having that taken away, because that was kind of the central parking deck. So with that being taken away, I don't know, that's just an opinion from me.
Okay. Anyone else?
How do you plan to handle motorcycle parking?
That's something that we would have to look at. Right now, of course, we have designated motorcycle parking in the on the ends of each of the blocks. And it would have to be something very similar, you know, if we're going to do meter, it would have to be the same. They would have to feed the meter. We just have to determine how that's going to look. Mhm.
Maybe there could be a real positive spin put on this, where there's some marketing tied into it, where it's incentive. So you have an incentive when you come to shop to downtown. It used to be in the old days that there would be red quarters. I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember red quarters, but basically the merchants would have painted quarters that were red, and they would put those. They could give them to their customer, and they would put them in the meter, so it wouldn't be counted as revenue. So there might be some kind of incentive package where it's a marketing and also real direct signage on where you can find parking, especially during special events with the River Center or any kind of street blockage where the traffic's altered. And one of the challenges of that is when the traffic alters, the GPS doesn't alter that. The GPS still sends you into the cluster, so I don't know how to be modern with that. But I think if we could put a positive spin on this and show that it's going to be more likely to find an adequate place to park quicker and get a turnover for our businesses, that the revenue would turn to make it work better for us. Some people don't come downtown specifically because they don't know where they're gonna park.
So the red coins will return back to that business. Is that how it was?
Or there would
Okay.
be a pool where everybody would get certain things. Let's say
Sure.
you're at 501 and you're getting your hair done and it's a long process and it runs over time, at least you have a solution. Someone can go say, hey, I'm going to take care of this. Right now, there's not a solution.
Sure, that's right.
You don't, you're stuck, you can't get it done, or someone gets involved in a sale that goes lengthy and they get penalty for being downtown. I'd rather pay for what I do versus get penalized for not understanding the system. So
Yes.
it's an option. So
I like
maybe there's
that.
something on a business level that we can do to help people feel like, hey, there's a balance here that makes sense.
Yeah, and we know signage is going to be critical, and the education and awareness is going to be, that's something that we'll have to do just consistently in order to get the word out so that people really get it. So, yes.
Some of the strategies we talk about, we're here now. We're trying to make solutions for our future growth. When you go downtown right now, you see all the construction going on, all these buildings going on. There's not a block that doesn't have some improvements going on right now. We need to be up to speed.
That's right.
We're a little behind, we're lagging, but, we've got a forecast coming down the tube, we've got to have a solution. Thank you.
Absolutely, great comments. Anyone else?
Just a thought that y'all might want to think about. What Trey was talking about is as far as the handicap parking. Maybe if you increase that and then didn't charge parking on handicap, then that would suffice for some of the older folks that are coming downtown that need parking and whatnot. I mean, you're gonna have people that just park in handicap parking, but I don't know, write them $1,000 ticket every time they do it. I don't know, but make it hurt. But as far as what you were talking about is with the communication wise, it might be good if, even with only 800 parking meters downtown and 800 metered spots, you're still going to have a significant increase in revenue. In that, if the people saw where that money is going, as far as either improvements or some other option, if they could see where the money's going, they're more likely to go along with saying, well, it's a little inconvenience now, but look what we got because of it.
Thank you.
I'll just say a few comments on your disabled parking. Of course, that is in place for people that are disabled, so we can have incentives that people can move appropriately, so they wouldn't tie up that space for someone that actually needs it. So if you are not disabled, of course, thereby there's where you have a fine enforced.
$1,000 a minute.
Back to the gentleman about the construction. We do have in our office where you can call us if you have an extended amount of construction that you're doing for your business or downtown. Just give us a call and we can actually give you a pass to do so in order for the time frame that you are doing construction at your location. So it makes it easy for you so you don't feel like you're targeted in that regard.
Thank you, Everett. Over here.
But as far as, like.
We're recording, so if you will, yes, thank you.
For like the jewelry store, I know in Atlanta, businesses can validate your parking, this flow, if people are only there for 10 minutes. Can't the store like have some kind of validation system where maybe it won't cost them anything for just that 10 minutes of having a customer in there in and out?
Certainly look at it.
I think having some type of shuttle system, like Buddy was talking about earlier, maybe with golf carts, you got handicapped people that are having to walk 4 blocks from the parking garage down to downtown. They're not gonna do that. They're gonna park downtown, they're gonna get a ticket. I think having a shuttle is huge, and I think that should be really considered as something that, just a 15-minute.
Golf carts type
Absolutely.
is what you.
Yeah. Yeah, because people that can't walk that far are not gonna park that far. It doesn't matter what you do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else? Want to hear from everyone, give you an opportunity. Mayor, would you have anything? Will you want to, any words from you?
Other than I have not included what to do about the parking.
Yeah, since I'm probably the only thing standing between us and getting out of here, I'll be quick, but I'm serious. I really don't have a clue what to do about it. I think that it's not so much a parking problem, and it's not a parking issue. We're not gonna find a parking solution. This is parking management.
That's right.
It's trying to come up with the best way, and we're gonna try to continue to get input from the public, because we have to stay nimble and be flexible enough that when we see migrating patterns throughout the uptown area, which we're gonna continue to see, we have to be able to react to. I do think that doing nothing is going to cost us some people who are currently in Uptown, just like I know that if we change and we go to meters, we're going to lose some people because of meters. It is a cultural thing. This is it's a very big, small town, and we love being able to park it at the door, run in, and get our work done. I will say this, not to tick off the enforcement folks, but if I'm going into Jimmy's, and I know I'm just going in there to pick something up, I'm looking left and right, and I don't see Metro, I'm not paying in that meter. I'm gonna run in there and go get it. But if I'm gonna go down there and park and go have lunch and then go shopping, then I'm gonna hit the meter.
Well, I can't say that.
Just tease me. But anyway, we do appreciate the input. This is a continuous process. There is no right answer. There's only trying to do what's best for the majority of people who not only live and work in Uptown, but the people who shop and come visit down there too. So thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Metro, for what y'all are doing.
Thank you, thank you. And if we do have a survey here that you can fill out if you'd like to, if after you've left here you still have some comments that you'd like to make, please feel free to call 311 and just let them know that you have some parking comments, and they will get those to us, and we'll continue to look and to pull all of that together. Of course, our next steps is we will be actually putting together an RFP to take a look at what's out there. You know, what does it come back at? What kind of cost are we looking at? And then, of course, we're going to compile all of your comments and take that back. The committee will look at that along with the evaluation of the RFP that we get back, and then we will, talk to council and see where we go from there. Okay? But again, please contact 311 if you have additional comments. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.